Today I'm just going to start painting. I'm going to walk through some different color properties as I paint this painting. I'm going to be talking first of all about color properties. Different types of pigment are going to react differently on your paper, and as a watercolor artist it really helps to know what your pigment types are going to do so that you have some freedom and can make wise decisions about how you're going to play those colors out on your paper. When you're working with a non-staining color, for example, that color is going to sit on the surface of your paper, just like this green does. It's going to move around quite freely as you add water. And if you find that you need to blot it or lift it off, you can do that without having a lot of residue left on the page. Non-staining colors really do just move around a little more freely than you'll find with a staining color. The best way to test this out is to paint that color on your paper. I'm using phthalo blue here, and it's a staining color. So it's going to start bleeding into your paper as soon as you set it on the page. You're not going to be very well able to lift that out back to pure white. At the same time, some of the staining colors are the most vibrant and beautiful, and I really love using them. Here I'm really just starting out painting some cornflowers using my phthalo blue, trying to arrange a composition that's pleasing to me. I'm using transparent colors here, and in watercolor I use primarily transparent colors. You can color properties again. We have transparent and opaque and varying degrees in between. Transparent colors are more transparent on the page. Opaque ones are going to have a little bit more of a muddy consistency to them. Think of having a drop of milk in a glass of water and how that tints your water, kind of that white milky color. Opaque colors tend to do that as well. I love using transparent colors in watercolor, and I try to avoid the opaque ones. I like seeing the layers of color building up on my page. That's important to me. Here you just see I'm adding some warm color into my painting. I really love working with complementary colors. Blue and orange are complementary. That means they're opposite each other on the color wheel. So adding oranges into a cool blue painting is really going to add that punch of warmth and color, and it's going to make the blue have a beautiful contrast. So here in this part of the painting, my purpose was really just to introduce some warmth into my painting. And I'm introducing some darks into my painting. I find that it works well for me to start with my lightest values, to try to leave them unpainted or just painted very lightly, and then to put in those darkest darks. When I have those two strong contrasts of value, then I can paint my middle values without kind of getting lost. I found that often when I paint from light to dark and just go progressively darker, my lights would get darker and darker until I had no light colors, no light values left at all. I want a variety of values, and so I find that when I'm working in between a light and a dark that's been painted onto my paper, I have a better chance of keeping that variety of values. Here you also see I'm starting to add some detail to my painting. Just cleaning up my palette so I can start mixing some fresh blues. I'm going to just start adding some more petals and some better shape to that focal flower. When I start with my richest blue, then I can use a clean wet brush to just kind of blend those colors out. I'm also using negative painting to paint those outer petals, bleeding out the negative shapes there. Here I'm just painting in some centers of my flower. Remember, with transparent colors, you want to leave light areas. If I were to put a yellow over a dark blue, it would just come through as green. Just adding in some more darks and negative shapes. Now I'm going to start working with those warm colors that I put in. I decided I wanted to have those warm colors actually represent something, not just be a kind of a sunlit background, but to actually make them into flowers. So here I'm just thinking about lilies. starting to put some shapes onto my page. I'm using quinacridone gold from Daniel Smith and a Perylene Scarlet. And they're really beautiful colors. Just kind of flicking them out with my brush, adding a little spatter, and blending some of that out too. Remember, you always have a little bit of time just to add some water and let those colors move around. The more water you add, the more time, although you don't want to have puddles either. And then some negative painting, just to bring out some of those lily shapes. And I keep going back to the same original colors that I started with. I'm not introducing any new paint pigments at this stage. Just using what I have and mixing what I've been using all along. That way I have a great unity in my painting. Adding some stamens for the lilies. Some more of that Perylene Scarlet. Painting around the cornflower petals that really makes them pop, having that warm red right beside them like that. As a painting gets further towards completion, it's time to start putting in those little detail areas. Generally this is done with dry brush. I'm not using as much water to blend things out. Painting in some stems, some flower centers, some crisp lines that just give my painting some form and shape. I have a little freedom to soften and bleed things out if I put a shape down that I'm not too happy with. More lily shapes on the left hand side. Felt like I needed some warmth on that side to really add balance to my painting. Don't be afraid to use expressive brush strokes to add interest to your painting, or contrasting colors in a brilliant shade. You have that time to blot and lift it out if you put it down and you think it's terrible. You have a moment to just lift that out and or to make it into something else or soften that line. But anytime you add an expressive brush stroke to your painting, it gives a sense of yourself in your painting. It gives it an individuality that's really important and special. So let's take a look at the painting and how it's progressed so far. I'm really loving this hint of a lily over here, and this little blue flower shape, that's also quite lovely. I think we need a stem to kind of bring it into the rest of the painting. Here's a lily shape as well, and this could be a hint of a lily as well. I love the freedom. This white space is important to the painting. There's a little bits of spatter here and there as well, and it's just really exciting to see everything coming together. I really don't want to work on this a lot more. I'm very happy with it so far. I'm just painting in a stem using negative painting, letting that lighter green be the stem and adding some darks to bring it out. Let's just take a close-up look here at some of the detail I really love. That negative painting, the contrast, adding darks and lights, just refining it a little bit. Zooming out to see how it looks in the rest of the page. Really happy with that little stem there, just adding color to bring it out a little bit more. Just brings my whole painting together with a little more unity. Little hints of dark color here and there, dark value, and then bleeding them out so that they just kind of refine a line and a shape. And putting that dark value beside just really brings those lighter shapes forward. Okay, here I've made a 0-hour decision to add one more flower, one more blue cornflower, just on the left side of my page. It's kind of just a little hint of one, kind of in shadow, and turned away from not a full-on view of it, just from the side, just to kind of bring my painting together a little bit. I want everything to just really have a good balance. Lots of interesting shapes and color. I'm just wrapping it up with a few darks and final details. I'm really happy with how this painting came out. It's just got a lot of vibrance to it, a lot of movement and life that I really love. And part of it is the contrast between the blue and the orange, those complementary colors that are just so lively.